What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I'm excited to have you here because this is going to be New Comic Book Day, August the 4th of 2021, and this is a really solid list. It was nice and condensed already for me when I picked out the books that I'm going to read or pick up. The list was already kind of short the way that I like it, but that being said, every book on here is something I'm excited to check out. So before I ramble too long, don't forget to like and subscribe, comment, connect, follow, do whatever you do on the platform you're on. Just look for my furry face inside of an orange circle and click all the buttons next to it. So before we take too long, let's jump right into this. I'm going to start out with The Joker Presents Puzzle Box number 1. And this is from DC Comics. It's Matthew Rosenberg, Joshua Hixon, and Jesús Merino. And I think this is kind of a unique one because it was a digital first book on DC Universe Infinite, a service I do subscribe to, and therefore I have read this book already. I think it started dropping in either May or July, so it's a couple months ahead there. I've read the first 3 issues, thoroughly enjoyed them. The first 2 especially are really good, and then the 3rd issue is a setup for the 4th issue, so I'll be reading that hopefully pretty soon. I can tell you it's a really cool book in the sense that what's going on is there's been some sort of crime, and the Joker and all of Batman's rogue gallery has been arrested, so they're being held at Gotham City Police Department, and nobody will speak except the Joker. So you have Commissioner Gordon, you have the police in an interrogation room with the Joker, and they're questioning him about what happened. So he's telling the stories of what happened and what was going on, and so basically each issue is him giving you a puzzle piece of what actually happened. And it's cool because the stories that he's telling, they go into sort of a flashback mode, where you get to see the story that he's telling play out, except it's being told from his perspective. So all the dialogue is got like this kind of humorous bend to it, very Matthew Rosenberg-y, and that it's kind of comedic in tone but very serious in delivery, and so it makes it really fun. It's a really cool way to tell a story, and I've enjoyed getting a puzzle piece every single time that I read this book and trying to put together what's really going on. Because it's all twisted up because the Joker is telling this story and we still don't know what he's done to make sure that nobody else speaks. So I've really enjoyed this series so far. I think this cover A is absolutely beautiful. I think it's a Chip Zdarsky cover, in fact. But I think it's really cool the way that you have the Joker looking oh so out of his mind and the puzzle pieces coming out forward. So I'm excited to see this in print. I'm definitely going to pick up the physical copy of the first one because I think it's a great book, and I would like to have that in my collection. Plus I love that cover. But again, I have read this book already, and therefore I really suggest everybody check it out if you haven't already read it on DC Universe Infinite. The next book is a new number 1. It's called We Promised Utopia, number 1 from LITERATI Press, and this is a new publisher to me. I don't really know anything they've done before, and the book itself is it's got it has a political bend to it. However, it doesn't seem that it necessarily has a political agenda. The basis for this is basically that we have switched to this currency system based on earned carbon credits, and so this is something that we kind of see in reality where there's been they use carbon credits to kind of like incentivize businesses and production facilities and things like that to try and limit the amount of pollution they're putting out into the environment. So that's why I say that this kind of has a political bend to it, because this is something that gets caught up in politics a lot. Do we or don't we want to destroy the planet, and how can we incentivize businesses to not destroy the planet, and what is the outcome of that? So in this book, as I read it, it basically we moved to this system, right? So we made this system work, and it created a utopia. But unfortunately, the book itself is kind of looking at the time period beyond that utopia and how it all kind of falls apart and collapses. So there may or may not be a political agenda to it. I'm not sure. That's why I'm going to be checking out the first one to find out. But it definitely seems like a really cool concept, and it's the kind of story that I kind of dream up myself. Like, how can we look at the way that things are, the way that things could be, and what would happen beyond that point? And so I think this is really cool. I like the way that it's presented in the like solicits and previews and stuff, and I'm definitely going to be checking it out. Basilisk number 3 from Boom Studios. This is Cullen, Bunn, and Jonas Scharf, and I mean, I've loved this series. I think the first issue was great. The second issue was just as great, really. You know, there was one thing I wish they had played a little more into in that second issue, but overall it's been a really solid series. I'm excited to find out more about all of these different characters, their abilities, and where they came from, and what made this main character switch sides and kind of turn on everybody else. So I think there's a lot of cool things going on in here. I've kind of talked about this book quite a bit, and to me, like, it's the Cullen Bunn stuff that I love the most. When you have, you know, a group or an individual that kind of develops powers or gets powers from somewhere, something like that, and they kind of have like this this huge impact on a small town. I grew up in rural Texas, and my dad absolutely loves, the more rural it is, the better it is to him. And so a lot of our vacations, we would go as a family to like these very small towns and stuff. And so I always saw like the impact that visitation could have on that kind of area. You know, Marfa is this town way out in the middle, like not even in the middle, like on the very outskirt edges of West Texas. And I remember taking a vacation where we went there, and the fact that we walked into this Family Dollar, or actually I think it was a Dollar General, but nobody in this town really recognized us. I remember shopping and buying a lot of things, and people seemed very thankful for us coming into their store and you know, purchasing these things. And so I understand the amount of impact that you know, a visitor or a stranger can have on a small town, and I think that's what Cullen Bunn does really well, is he introduces like these crazy elements to a small town kind of setting, and you get to see the rippling effects of that and how it actually affects that locale. So I really enjoy Basilisk so far. I think the first 2 issues were great. I'm really excited to see where the 3rd issue goes. I believe this is a 5-issue miniseries, which again is what I think Cullen Bunn does so well. And I'm excited to see how this all plays out from here. The Nice House on the Lake number 3. This is a Black Label book from DC. James Tynion IV and Alvaro Martinez Bueno. And I think this has been great. I've really enjoyed this. It's very masterfully paced. Every issue just kind of like plods along in a perfect pacing. It gives you a lot to take in. And I've reread each issue several times because I think there's a lot of depth to what's going on there. I've been studying these symbols. I've been watching what's going on. We know the first issue, when everything was introduced, it started with the artist, and she kind of explained how everybody was connected, you know, how they knew Walter. And then the second issue was from the perspective of the pianist, and we saw a lot of his connections, not just to the people, but to Walter, and why his connection is important within the house, because he is married to one of the other people that are within the house, and the way that he feels about Walter is much different from everybody else. And I like the way that they present that. And so if we're following the symbols across the top, we see that this issue is going to be about the reporter. And I think it's going to be interesting to see what we discover through the reporter, because this is going to be somebody that is used to asking hard questions and searching for evidence and trying to figure out and piece together a story and a narrative. And so I think that's going to provide some really interesting insight within the house, and what that's going to mean overall for this story. We're still a little, a little unsure about how the timeline is being pieced together. It seems like these characters are giving us a reflective perspective on how things went in the house, but currently they are no longer in this house, and it almost seems like they're in the post-apocalyptic world, or maybe the remnants of the house or something to that effect. So it's going to be really interesting to see how these two different sides of this timeline kind of merge at some point, and we find out how they have destroyed this house or how they escaped this house or whatever else, because in the second issue we did see them approach the edge of the property and realize that they can't really escape. There's almost like an invisible wall there, and we found out some other small elements and details here and there. So I'm excited to see how all of that adds up for the third issue, as well as what the reporter is going to be able to uncover for us. Out of Body number 3. I'm really excited for this. This is another story that I just think is very well paced. I like stories that don't rely real heavily on one single aspect or element of them. So a lot of times comic books do this high concept thing, right? So you're reading the first issue and it's like this really cool story, and then you get to the end and there's like this big concept that's just kind of like thrown at you and completely changes the way that the rest of the issues are told or how they could be presented. And so I like something like Nice House on the Lake or Basilisk or Out of Body, where everything's pretty much presented up front and you're given this story to kind of follow along, and it continues to build out on itself instead of kind of giving you this high point and then dropping for the rest of the series and then trying to build itself back up. And so that's one thing I've really enjoyed about Out of Body, is that it has like multiple layers. It's like an onion. There's like 6 different things going on in this story, and they're all just kind of like pieced together very well and layered in a way that really makes it interesting and fun to read. And I'm always excited to find out just a little bit more, to just build that story a little bit more. And all of the different elements to me are coming together extremely well in this story. I think Peter Milligan's doing a great job with the way he writes it, and of course I love the way that Inaki Miranda illustrates everything, and Eva de la Cruz doing the color work just really solidifies the creative team that's on this and makes it into a solid book that I've really been enjoying, and I'm definitely excited to see what the third issue is going to unfold for us. Skybound X number 5. This has been a weekly series. There's been a lot going on. I honestly have only read the first 2 issues so far, but I'm pretty excited about this particular issue because it has, one, the conclusion of the Rick Grimes 2000 story, which is really cool, a little over the top, a little bit cheesy, but I love the way that they lean into it. And as not a Walking Dead fan, this has definitely been something really cool and fun to do with that world and those characters, and kind of play back into the meta narrative of how Robert Kirkman got it all produced in the first place. This story also has a 6 sidekicks of Trigger Keaton story, so I'm excited for that because I really enjoyed Trigger Keaton so far. Both issues have been just straight fire. I think they're humorous and hilarious, and you know, if you like Kyle Starks, then this is definitely a great work from him that has some great commentary on not really like Hollywood itself, but sort of like the TV side of Hollywood, if that's a thing, you know. So I think it's been a lot of fun. I love those characters. I'm excited to see what kind of short story we get there. And then I also I love Jason Howard. His artwork, his style is really cool and unique. It's got a great gritty look to it. It's pretty well refined, but very like squared off artwork. And that's something that just appeals to my sensibilities a lot. So him and Robert Kirkman have some kind of new story that's going in here. And based on what we know of Skybound X, these shorter stories are kind of the future of Skybound. And so therefore they're kind of starting out these new series with this little short stories at the end. So considering this is a new story from Jason Howard and Robert Kirkman, I think this is going to be the launch of a new series from them, and I'm really excited for that because I really enjoyed Big Girls. I thought it was great. I really like Jason Howard's artwork. I enjoy a lot of what Robert Kirkman does and what he believes in as far as like a creator and the comics industry. And so I'm excited to see what they put together and what that might mean for the future of their storytelling and Skybound. So I'm excited for Skybound X number 5, and can't wait to check that one out. Some honorable mentions here. Suicide Squad number 6. I've been absolutely loving this series. This is going to be the second part of that story we got with Bloodsport in the last issue. I just didn't want to like sit here and talk about it because I've talked about that series so much so far. And the coverage we did on it about the Bloodsport issue, you can see in, I believe it was a Thursday night chat where we talked about that one on Burke Family 54 Comics channel. So we covered that one pretty extensively, and I'm excited to see how that wraps up with the second part after the awesome ending we got in part 1. Swamp Thing number 6 will be out. This is Rom V and Mike Perkins. I'm really excited because Mike was missing on the last issue, and as good as that issue was as a standalone thing, I've really enjoyed how the story has progressed and the very detailed artwork that Mike Perkins has put into each issue. And so I'm excited to get back to that and be able to see where the story is going to continue to progress with number 6. And then Justice League number 66, I'm actually like 1 or 2 issues behind on that one, so I'm going to need to get caught up. But I have enjoyed the last issue or 2 of Justice League. I thought Bendis has really stepped it up with the last couple of issues, and they've been much more impressive than the first couple of issues of his run. And Rom V, I absolutely love everything he writes. I have no complaints. It was a little bit of a fillery Justice League Dark issue the last time that I read the book, but like I said, I'm excited to get caught up, see what that all meant, and hopefully this next issue, number 66, will really just knock it out of the park and re-cement my love for the Justice League Dark series that Rom V's been carrying in the back of Justice League. So that's all the books for this week. I'm really excited for all of these. It's difficult to say, but I'm definitely interested in We Promised Utopia number 1. I think the presentation and the synopsis and I guess like the preview aspect of that has me really interested to see what this story is and where it goes. Nice House on the Lake has really just been top notch. I've really enjoyed it so far. Like I said, I think it's just masterfully paced, and there's a lot of content being packed into each issue of that. And Out of Body number 3 is probably my third pick this week, just because I'm really excited for where that story continues to go, because it just keeps peeling away these layers of an onion. And so I'm really excited to see what we get to learn about in this issue with that. So it's a packed week. It's really hard to say any one of these is gonna, I have more anticipation for one of these than the other. I would say Puzzle Box number 1 and Justice League 66 are probably the 2 lowest on my list as far as anticipation, just because Justice League, it feels like there's so much of it right now because it's coming out like 2 or 3 times a month or something like that. And I've already read Puzzle Box number 1, so there's no new ground for me to break on that one. But yeah, there's a lot of great books coming out this week. This is my list. I was surprised how short it was because I actually didn't really whittle this one down or anything. These were just the only books that I picked out of the list. Although I think lately I've been more naturally selective, so maybe that's part of the reason as well. But I want to know what you guys are excited for. What books am I missing that I should be keeping an eye on? There was another number 1 somewhere in everything that I considered adding to my list, but I read the synopsis and it didn't quite grip me. So if you guys can remember what that is, drop it in the comments and let me know if I should check it out. Other than that, that's about it. I mean, I recently got back from vacation just about 2 days ago as of the recording of this, and I've just been hanging out, enjoying the summer. Things have opened up a lot, at least here in the States, and I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing based on how the numbers are trending with this new variant and all that, but we'll see what happens. You know, I'm excited for summer. It's been pretty warm out. Of course, at least for me, it's Texas, so July and August are by far the worst things in the world, but it hasn't been completely awful, and I've been enjoying a lot of family time, and I've pulled back from YouTube and I guess like the internet in general a bit, but I've also been writing a lot, and I'm excited to start to kind of be able to share some of that stuff out. I'm not sure exactly what the delivery is going to be for it yet, but rest assured, I am working on things, and I will have more content that hopefully is a little more interesting than what I've been doing more recently. So that's all I have for you. I hope you guys check out all these books. I hope you let me know what books you're excited for. And until next time, keep flipping pages.
you